and we actually pay them to do it.
You volunteered, didn't you? We're paying you, aren't we?
The first of the duo is an opinionated local sports editor who has made a name for himself thanks to his beard.
That's a serious beard you got going on. I mean, you're heading toward Duck Dynasty, but well-groomed. That's a good look. If I ever did that, that's the look I would go for.
The other guy is a guy who takes no prisoners when it comes to sports.
Let's stomp these dudes.
Together, they bring you the best in Oklahoma State sports talk and opinions on sports from around the country.
That's right. Listen up. Hey, listen up. You.
It's Jason Elmquist.
Today, I'm a mild-mannered reporter for the newspaper.
And Patrick Wheeler.
I'm a very dangerous man.
This is the Afternoon Sports Drive on the Triple Play Sports Radio Network.
That's what I'm talking about.
You ain't never heard nothing like this. Let me work, show me where the mic is. I'm on stage, black shirt and my Timbs. You know how I do it, I ain't playing with you, I've been grinding. Anybody trying to sleep on me, better do something with your eyelids. I hear a lot of whining, but I don't hear a lot of rhyming. Whoa. Everybody got opinions, let it go into my ear, then I block that. Put me on stage, I'ma rock that. Saying you the best, stop that, phony, I am not that. Yeah. What are y'all doing out here? What are y'all doing out here? Maybe you should spend a little less time with the women on your arms and a little bit more with your career. I ain't saying I'm the best, but I should be in the top 10. Give me a list of names, I'ma top them. I'm just playing with you, I don't care what the top is. Leave me at the bottom, let me work for it. You ain't never gonna find another rapper in the game and tell me that he works more. Tell me that he works more. No.
Afternoon Sports Drive, Triple Play Sports Radio Network.
I ain't leaving.
It's Friday, and it's an excellent Friday because we have so much to talk about here on the Afternoon Sports Drive. It's a fantasy Friday. We also have football, finally, on Friday. I'm not going to lie. There were times this week where I thought to myself, come on, Perry. Come on, Pawhuska. Let's get to Friday because we saw some games dropping. Let's get there. Let's get this in. So that's where I'm headed, obviously. I know that Jason will be there as well. Jason, were you ever worried like that was going to be the next one? I was thinking to myself, we just got to get to this day. Let's get at least a game in and see how everything goes from there, right?
No, I'm really not surprised because the numbers, especially here up in the Perry area over in Pawnee, haven't been as big because obviously you didn't have an influx of 20,000 students like the Stillwater area is specifically Payne County right now. So I'm not surprised that they're getting to we were able to get to this day and they're going forward. Because most of the cancellations in week 0 that I've heard are from the big Tulsa and Oklahoma City areas, with the random outlier of like Perkins and Chisholm. And apparently Jimmy talked with Bruce Williams down at Perkins, and they were actually discussing moving their week 0 game to they happen to have the same bye week of playing that week anyway. Before they had like I think it was just 1 or 2 players who had been in contact with someone who tested positive over at Chisholm. So no, I'm not that surprised that we're good to go tonight here in Perry. I'll be that's why I'm on the tie line today because I'll be taking photos there, and then after about a quarter, I'll jet over to Pawnee, try to get some photos over there as well.
It's all about ready to start ramping up. Levi Peckinpah's in the house because it's Friday as well. Levi, what's going on, man?
Man, it's football time.
Doesn't it just feel good?
Just the
feels
energy,
natural, right?
It just courses through your bones.
Yeah.
It's just, I'm so excited.
Levi, I know sometimes you do the scoreboard show for radio, but are you gonna be able to watch your alma maters try to start possibly going further than they did a year ago of making it to the state semifinals, right?
Yes, but I am unfortunately not going to be able to. I will be on the board for the Perry game, but I will make sure to keep these stats right next to me the whole time so I can just see all the running stats just coursing, because with Pawnee football, it is run it, and then let me think about it. Oh yes, run it. It's a constant run game that almost is reminiscent of like an 80s or a 90s team, and it's incredible to see how long they can actually get away with it. But when you have a great offensive line like that and you have so much utility out of your backfield, I mean, it's incredible what Coach Cook and and that coaching staff has been able to do.
Yeah, and obviously Pawnee's an 11-man at Class A, but they are very reminiscent of a 8-man style of game where you're going to hardly ever see a pass. It is going to be run, and they're going to be effective with it. And that's the scary thing for any opponent with Pawnee is their top 2 studs from a year ago that again led them to a state semifinals match are back with your quarterback and your leading running back. So, and those guys, that's the I think the scariest thing when you're a defense is when you have a quarterback like they have up over there in Pawnee and a talented running back. I mean, your eyes have to be glued to that ball, and you cannot bite on any fakes, handoffs, stuff like that. And then still, you're still trying to have to wrap out the guys. And again, as you said, a great offensive line, sometimes they're usually penetrating so quickly that you don't have time to even try to get a gang tackle together. You have to almost hope that you can get a one-on-one tackle down. And at Class A, that's easier said than done.
Oh, yeah, it's a lot easier said than done. And with what Coach Cook and that squad have been able to do over the past couple years, it's been a whole process for them trying to get the right people in, trying to develop them, and it's been a process over time. It's the small town football equivalent of trust the process, being able to work with all these kids, being able to do the right things, get them to learn what the system is, and then put them in the right spots, and hopefully, and especially now, being able to make that next step and eventually, hopefully, get to a state title.
Well, as you can see, we're all really pumped up that football's back. College football is back tomorrow, by the way. Austin Peay, Central Arkansas, going to get it going in prime time on ESPN in the FCS, so that'll be fun. You know what? It's another day, so it means more news out of the Big Ten, right? This Big Ten circus, as I like to call it, has just been all over the place. We talked about it yesterday, the players, 8 of them out of Nebraska, filing a lawsuit against the Big Ten. Well, that has actually come even further today because we get news that the Big Ten has been meeting. Coaches have been meeting. Presidents, Kevin Warren, all of them been meeting and talking about possibly getting the season started around Thanksgiving was the last report. If you remember this, when Kevin Warren released the letter, the open letter to everybody, he made sure to make the main point, we're not having a college football season in the fall, and we're not going to revisit this. Well, guess what? They've revisited it. So, in a way, like I've heard people saying plenty that have backed up, like, Kevin Warren wasn't all his fault. He's in a tough spot. Like, yeah, but the way he's been back and forth on things that he's put out there too, the release of the schedule, and now this, it's not a good look. But before we get into that stuff too, think about this whole Thanksgiving thing here. You're telling me that returning to play the week of Thanksgiving makes more sense than coming down in late September like everybody else? If you told the Big Ten schools right now, get ready in a month, we want to kick off on September 26th, every Big Ten school will be like, we're going to be ready. We haven't had a padded practice yet, but we can get it done here in a month. If that means us getting a football season, we're going to have a football season.
Oh, yeah, they would have that notepad out and be like, so is there anything else you need from us? Anything else? Yeah. Anything, possibly a drink? Would you like anything? And then they would run and celebrate, because this is truly what all the coaches, all the staff, all the student players want. They want to have football back. And with the majority of these facilities, they're some of the best facilities in the world for these athletes to actually stay healthy. Because when you look at campuses, yes, some campuses might be okay, but truly with their in-house staff and their in-house facilities that they have, it's a lot better than almost anywhere around the nation.
Yeah, again, the thing we got to keep in mind is right now it's all reports and sources and stuff like that, and I don't know. If anything, 2020 has taught me is we don't know nothing until something actually happens. I mean, just go back to the start of the pandemic when we thought, okay, we're going to have NBA for, we're going to get to the playoffs, we're going to have an NBA, and then suddenly, poof, it disappeared literally within minutes of hearing stuff out of Oklahoma City. Because I remember when that first happened with Oklahoma City, it was what's going on? We don't know what's going on. Well, okay, well, the other games are playing, we're still good. And then suddenly, boom, we lost all sports. So until it comes from the Big Ten or the Pac-12 themselves, I'm just going to sit back assuming that they're not playing until they decide to play.
And to that point, the Big Ten came back. Would any of us really be surprised at this point, kind of what you're saying? Like, oh, well, that happens this year, too, in sports. So I thought what was funny was after the players sent out their lawsuit and their lawyer talked about everything that was in it, well, the response from the Big Ten's attorney said, quote, "The harm would be incredible. The harm would be incredible if the board of directors documents were made available to the public just because 8 student athletes disagree with the decision." Now, you can take that however you want. But I said it a little bit yesterday, and I'm not your conspiracy theorist guy here, but it does seem a little fishy that the Big Ten isn't like, if they had nothing at all to hide, wouldn't we just come out and say, well, here's how we voted, or yes, there was a vote, and here's proof of it, right? Is that too much to ask at this point? At least proof that we vote. Kevin Warren said we voted. Okay, he said that, but can we see some actual tangible evidence that that vote took place and did so following the guidelines that the Big Ten already set? Is that too much to ask here?
Go ahead, Levi.
Man, I wouldn't think that would be too much to ask, because in the majority of situations where there's a lot of things that might be up for grabs and might be mysterious, there's usually some level of transparency with things. When you look at a lot of different things, whether you're going to various councils or there's various meetings, there's usually some level of transparency between us common people and the people who are actually in these higher up positions. There's usually some level of transparency. But right now, in this little COVID era where everything is kind of hidden in the shadows, you would think at least giving the hand of, hey, here's all this. We'll level with you. We'll make sure everybody's on ground zero. So it'll stop the freak out. There will, of course, be backlash whenever if they plan on throwing out the results. There will be backlash of some sorts. And I think that might be what everybody is afraid of.
Go ahead, Jason.
Sorry, I'm trying to text with people for work. I'm trying possibly have some breaking news to get to after our first break. So you guys keep going.
Okay, that works. We'll take that, whatever that means. So Jason's our breaking news guy. Solid teaser. With this, what I take from it is the Big Ten, I think, realizes now, based off the heat they've gotten from these players. The parents, by the way, which have just been viciously keeping on top of, we're not going to let the pressure up. A lot of people in the media, at least that if you look in the right spots, have been ripping them about it. But I think they're seeing all this and realizing maybe this was too early of a decision that we made. We're also finding out, especially like starting tomorrow, right? There's going to actually be college football. When that occurs, it's like, this actually is going to happen. I'm not really sure how, if you're being honest, if they ask the Big Ten, how much did they really think we'd even get to the point we're about to be tomorrow, where there actually would be a game play, right?
Right. No one thought that, for a while, no one thought that we were going to progress up to this, to where college football is going to be a thing, and now they're on the outside looking in. And I think they might be putting up something where you could potentially be a little afraid of what happens if the results come out and turns out maybe they did vote, but maybe there's a certain college where they voted a certain way that was like, okay, we don't want to have college football. And like we've been talking about over the several weeks, whether it's just you guys or me, we've been talking about what if this could affect how things recruiting wise go with colleges, and how you might get some people that might decommit or go transfer somewhere else. There could be a lot of little residual effects from the vote if it ever comes out.
Well, we heard basically the report that all athletic directors were in favor of playing football in the Big Ten. You've got like a war going on between them and the presidents, the coaches, all the way to the top. It's just a mess from top to bottom, and part of me wonders how much the Big Ten, if they look back at this and thought, a lot of this could have been avoided if we had just pulled the trigger, right? Or at least by pulling the trigger, at least attempting to wait a little longer which, by the way, the SEC and the Big 12 and the ACC, they all set their dates. Mm-hmm. But a lot of that, if you look into it, was still just giving them more time. Mm-hmm. Because if they were sitting here right now, like we've seen declines in cases and things like that in a lot of different places, and that's good news. We're over the curve in a lot of places. So if they had done what they did and we hadn't been this way, well, then they could have said, hey, at least we waited, but it's just no way we can attempt to do this, or even attempt it and say it's just not good enough time right now. We can't get this done with everything going on. What the Big 12 and the SEC and the ACC did was buy themselves a lot more time to figure out exactly how this can be done and how we should find ways to because look at all the stuff that's happened the past few weeks.
Right.
The test that's come out now, new CDC information. We go down the list of things we're gathering in the last couple of weeks alone, that if the Big Ten had done what those other conferences had done, said, just give us a couple more weeks, they might be ready to go and play too. I think they jumped the gun big time, and they're realizing that right now.
Yeah, and they really jumped the gun, and that's the one thing that all the other conferences, like we've been saying, were smart on. They waited, they held everything back, and they made sure their timing was right. They made sure that they had the facts that they needed to, they had the information that they wanted and or needed, so they could make the proper moves, and we could go on and have a college football season.
Do you think that they expected as much backlash from not just other people outside of programs, but parents and players as far as to filing a lawsuit against them? Do you think that ever crossed the Big Ten as a whole president's minds?
I think probably at the beginning, no. I think whenever we were all at the height of this, everybody was kind of in panic mode, the unknown of what's going on, how is this going to affect everybody, and so at that moment, they were probably originally thinking about maybe the safety of the people and not truly the consequences that you would have on kids or money, just kind of thinking about that safety. And when you pull that trigger so fast, instead of overlooking everything and trying to make sure that you're doing the right steps, it's just one of those things where it's in the spur of the moment. And that's how a lot of people act during this, is a lot of spur of the moments, trying to believe that you thought you did the right thing, but you didn't look at how everybody else was going to view this.
Yeah. Jason, do you have any breaking news at the moment for us, or are we still waiting?
Still waiting for confirmation.
Okay.
Yep.
Is this? Okay. Are you going to tease it anymore, or just to leave it at straight breaking news?
We'll have something hopefully soon. We'll say that.
Okay. It's vague. I don't know what you're talking about. Are you talking about high school, or are you talking what in the world is going on here?
We have something, maybe.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know when, and I don't know what, but we got something.
All right, there you go. That'll keep listeners engaged, no doubt. All right, when we come back, Jason and I dove into the whole NBA thing quite a bit yesterday. We'll get Levi's response and hit on that a little bit more, since we do know they are returning tomorrow after what was a couple of days off the court. And then later on, we've got a lot of NFL news to get into, including it's a Fantasy Friday. We'll break more of that down. Still to come on the Afternoon Sports Drive, Triple Play Sports Radio Network.
It's been a too long time with no peace of mind. I'm ready for the times to get better. I've got to tell you, I've been racking my brain, hoping to find a way out.
It's the Afternoon Sports Drive, Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Patrick Wheeler, Levi Peckinpah here in studio, Jason Elmquist on the tie line joining us as well. Let's get into a little bit of this NBA stuff. Thought this was pretty fascinating to talk about yesterday because there was so many angles to take it. But we do know now that they plan on resuming tomorrow and into Sunday. And I thought about it because I read about what they got done with the owners. I'm sure you read about that too, right? The new, whatever you want to call it, commitments that are being made. A lot of that having to do with allowing arenas to involve voting stations and that type of thing, and forming a group involved in civil unrest and social justice and all that. But what I think happened with the NBA and the fact that they came back so quickly, I think a lot of it, I'm honestly thinking, was a money thing. I say that because they were probably told, look, this is how much you guys stand to lose if you continue not to play, right? Mm-hmm. Substantial amounts of money. And they probably thought to themselves, you know what? We should probably keep playing. But on top of that, we could find a way to make our voices heard, which that's what I'm saying from the beginning. I thought they were doing with all of this was they were making their voices heard. And the owners and Adam Silver gave them everything that they could want in that way. The platform was there. So I think about what they did here, thinking about what they did originally with not going back and playing. Part of me also thinks I'm not sure there was an end game in mind here. It's easy to react emotionally with these things. We saw Chris Paul came out today and said that this was a refocusing time for players. They took these days to refocus. They were emotionally drained and all that. Well, I believe that's a lot of what led to the initial boycott, was a pretty emotional response. And we kind of saw what happened at the end with that now was they realized they didn't really know exactly what they wanted, but thought, you know what, we could still probably play while we figure out what we want to do.
But some of the videos I've seen today, actually, we're starting to hear stuff come out from that meeting that they had Wednesday. That because obviously we've had the what are they wanting, and we've heard conversations of the thing that I mentioned yesterday of they've been in contact with their owners. They want more action from their owners. I don't know if you saw all of Chris Paul's thing today, but he talked about how they want the NBA to basically have a commercial that runs during the commercial breaks of these games, talking about the importance of going out and voting and stuff like that. So it probably initially was just because of the fatigue of it. It was also, it did give them time to start formulating some ideas. And while they haven't come out and released anything like the Baltimore Ravens did, they have, from what it sounds like, there is things behind the scenes that they have not necessarily mandated, but are making a push for. And apparently I saw an ESPN story saying that Michael Jordan was the owner that kind of went to the players first and was the voice of reason when going back to the owners and the board of governors or whatever they have in the NBA. So that's, I think, the interesting thing, because somebody brought up a good point on one of the FS1 shows I watched today, how you go back to Meek Mills, how all these athletes were wanting him to be released and all this other stuff, and then it took Robert Kraft going to visit him, and then within a week he was pardoned. And that's what I think the players are starting to pick up from this opportunity now is turning to these owners who, as I said yesterday, some of them have the ear of people within the federal government of saying, hey, we need you guys to act. We're acting. We need your guys' backing as well.
With that being said, couldn't all of that have been done in terms of communication while still playing? Or was it necessary to go a couple days without games?
Here would be my argument. I mean, why, if that's the case, why weren't the owners doing it before they ultimately had to do a boycott?
Well, were they communicated before that this way? Like, were they told by players what they wanted?
Yeah, I don't know.
That's what I'm saying. Is I don't know how much communication actually came from the players.
But at the same time, you would hope as a player that if the owners are approving and whatnot of the Black Lives Matters on the court and on the jerseys, that they would think, hey, maybe we could do more than just have symbolic gestures. Maybe they were hoping that they wouldn't have to take that step, and ultimately they've been proven that maybe they need to.
I think maybe that's the case, but I'm also thinking too that the owners and Adam Silver were probably like, with giving them this platform and giving them all that Jason just talked about, they were probably like, that's something that can ultimately cause an avoidance of a boycott. Now, when they didn't expect probably another shooting or anything like that to happen while all this was going on, but when I look at this and I look at what came from everything here in these last couple of days and how quickly the players got back, it seemed to me that I'm not really sure, other than what they told the owners there and what they've agreed to, that they've really accomplished here in these last couple of days. Do you see something here that they've done that is just like game-changing, that's going to change the minds of people, that's going to move things in the positive direction that they want to move things by doing what they've done here?
I think what they did was it's small little things that they hope that later down the line could potentially make a change. It's nothing game changing, because truly to make something game changing, if they wanted it to be game changing, the boycott would have been playoffs are over. This is going to be different.
That's what I'm saying.
But with the other way you got to think about it, I was thinking could end two ways. One, you could do the boycott and this whole thing gets flipped around and we got a different story and we got something different on our hands. But with them staying, it allows them to earn that money that they get from these NBA teams and then go impact those communities with all of the millions that they will be making from all this. And it helps a lot of these other young guys who are getting compared for NBA checks. They're not getting a lot for these NBA checks, so they'll be able to go help out in their communities with what they got. A lot of these guys still thrive off what little NBA checks they get. So this whole thing, from what it seemed like when Milwaukee took that first step, I don't know if they were truly prepared with it. It might have been
that's what I'm saying. I'm not sure they were.
It was probably that first emotional jab, because this happened in their home state. This happened in where they're at, and whenever that happens, of course someone might have that first little emotional jab, and then probably their captains in the locker room are just like, we can't handle this. And when something like that happens, you got to work as a team, and for the NBA players as a community to figure out what's the next proper move.
Oh, and I think we also have to look at the fact that, and Chris Paul was asked the question, and I thought had a great response. He mentioned how, 15 years in the league, he's never seen the entire league come together in a movement, because obviously since they've returned to the bubble, it's been, individual players or individual teams making these statements, and they all finally kind of came together because of what happened the other night. And I think we also have to keep in mind is that the fact that while people may say, well, what did it do? Well, we're seeing what it did. We've seen MLB teams, postpone. We saw WNBA, MLS, and NFL teams canceling practice, and that spins into the breaking news. I can confirm it now via Go Pokes Report or Pokes Report. Robert Allen and whatnot. I've contacted Zach. Apparently, Oklahoma State canceled their scheduled practice this afternoon. Apparently, it was supposed to be a scrimmage. Matter of fact, today they canceled that in regards to the racial injustice following kind of what we've heard a lot of. I think Texas was another team that had recently. Instead, the players have apparently broken out into small meeting groups throughout the West End Zone instead. And so while we're sitting here maybe saying, well, what did they accomplish? I think we're seeing it, because we're seeing it across the entire sports landscape that some programs, some franchises are stopping and starting to maybe reevaluate things, and apparently it is happening today in Stillwater as well.
I mean, I get that too, but what does other sports and OSU stopping practice, like what does that accomplish? Like that's what I'm asking, because what the NBA did, yeah, we've seen a trickle down, but what can't be talked about after practice or in team meetings or anything that we actually have to stop playing, other than we're doing this as some symbolic gesture?
Well, we also have to keep in mind that, I don't know specifically how it's structured, but Oklahoma State, you're limited in when you're allowed to practice, interact with players, all this other stuff. And if you're instead, saying we're going to cancel practice and instead be able to interact with each other, have these conversations, have these meaningful conversations with coaches, players, stuff like that, that maybe, at least at the NCAA level, that you maybe would be tough to try to do because of all the restrictions you have, is being come back from this. And obviously at the pro level, these pro franchises are in the middle of things, and I know the Chiefs have said that we try to talk about it during our lunch break and stuff like that. Well, if you cancel practice, that gives you now more time than just a lunch break to have these conversations, whether it's with your teammates or your owners or your coaches and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. It's a little moment of where you guys everybody can come together and understand the different backgrounds and the different situations that everybody's been in, and it can help people grow as a team and as a community. We've seen it with the Baltimore Ravens. They came out with a statement, the Tennessee Titans, and now it moves down to the college level with Oklahoma State. It's a way to where everybody can come together with unity and just be able to talk about these hard things that a lot of times not a lot of people can talk about.
I understand that. I wonder if, we weren't dealing with coronavirus still, and you were allowed to do all these meetings and everything normally and whatever, would it be needed or even necessary to stop games and or practices? I mean, it's hard for me to buy into we need to stop playing right now so that we can all sit down and talk, because if we don't do that, we won't have another time to do so. Like, I don't really buy into that being the main reason. I think that the NBA players, the Bucks, they thought this was the right thing to do. Emotion was attached, and they're realizing after a couple days, because I said it yesterday. I actually wrote out what I was planning, some key points I wanted to hit, and one of them was if the NBA came back immediately, like, to me, that's not a good look. If your idea is a boycott or protest and it involves not playing, well, what's the whole point if you're only doing it for a day or 2 days? That's what I didn't understand. If they come back now, it makes it look to the average person, the average fan, right, that, okay, I guess they solved something in 2 days or got what they wanted in 2 days and now they're ready to go. No, to me, it's they realized what the ramifications would be financially if they don't go out there and play. Probably also realized, which goes for Major League Baseball, the NHL, even college football now because of Twitter. Now, maybe not the same for like the level they'd have in pro sports, but the fact that they can get out there and use their platforms that are given to them in the NBA, that are press conferences after the game. Those guys don't have to talk about what happened in the game if they don't want to, and we've seen that in the NBA. They'll get asked a question, and I'm not going to talk about this. I'm going to talk about what's going on in the world right now, right? Mm-hmm. And that caught as many eyes as anything right there. The attention was already on all of that.
See, I will actually go out and say that, because you keep saying, what does it change? What them canceling the game? What does it matter? What changes are we seeing? We're in Stillwater, Oklahoma, and for the third straight day, we're talking about that. To me, that's change.
We're talking about it. That
is change.
That's not change.
We were barely talking. Yes, it is.
No, it's not. We're talking about it because it's the hottest thing in sports. You have not lived in Stillwater, Oklahoma for the past 10 years to be able to make that statement. We're talking about it because
this is change. This is change happening. See, here, us talking about this on air is change. Us hearing Oklahoma State canceling practice for racial injustice is change. To say that the boycott of the games Wednesday night did not create change, I'm seeing it. I've lived in Stillwater for the past 10 years, and while it may look minuscule, it is a form of change.
I believe we're talking about this right now because it's the hottest topic in sports. That's it. The change that you're seeing, to me, you can call it change, but I'm not seeing what sense it makes by what they're doing. I understand. You make the point, Oklahoma State, maybe they need this time to get everybody to talk about it, and this is the best way to do it. But canceling a scrimmage when you're 2 weeks out, I mean, really, you're telling me that we couldn't get everybody together at some other point? We didn't have a practice yesterday.
Perhaps it shows that the athletes and maybe even the coaching staff as well, that maybe something's more important right now than sports.
And it's not just sports. Think about it this way. Yeah, I get that argument all the time. People like, there's things going on more important than sports. And while I wouldn't dispute that, I would say sports have been used so many times, especially in the past, like recently in the past, with players that have been able to come forward and use their performances and what they do with their sport to elevate their message as much as anything.
Well, here's one thing. Think about it this way. I'm with Jason that it is change, and if you look at it this way, for Oklahoma State, yes, it's a scrimmage, and you need to get as much time and reps in as possible to get ready for the college football season. But don't forget, for Oklahoma State and for a lot of these big schools, some of this time, it's okay, but your real test is once the season gets started, once you get that first game against Tulsa, that's when you can truly test yourself. This is really good because it gets the reps in, but besides that, you need to focus on bigger points. And with how things have been going for Oklahoma State, it's nice to have this point in time where you can call it all off, call practice off, and you have this moment of being able to connect everybody and be able to make those small changes. Because, yes, you do need reps as a football team, but it matters more to change the lives of people, change people's perspective, than being able to get a couple more reps in and being able to have practice. It's good to have this change in the world, and now that you have it on the smaller level of college football, maybe you can see other places around the nation, other college teams be able to do the same thing, and you get more changes in those communities.
Yeah, okay, good stuff. I mean, I like everybody's thoughts on this. Different perspectives are important. Again, I know this is a serious topic that's emotionally charged with a lot of people too. But the good news is, at least for NBA fans, we're getting back to it in a day, right? I mean, there was yesterday we didn't know if we were going to have NBA any rest of the season, so that's definitely good news. When we come back, get into a little bit of the NFL stuff in hour number 2. It's Fantasy Friday. That's next.
I don't wanna wait for our life to be over. It happened, but you take it how you left it. This is give and take. Take your side, take me under. I want it, but you show me what I'm missing. In the plane down to Southern California, running in the streets all day. I guess some of us just gotta learn the hard way. Don't give a damn, nobody gotta say this.
Welcome back. We're wrapping up hour number 1 of the afternoon sports drive on a Friday. Patrick Wheeler, Jason Elmquist, and Levi Peckinpah rocking it with you, getting you into the weekend where there will be football played. Yeah, you heard that right. I was thinking, the only thing that would actually make this better is if it were like a fall type setting outside. Oh, then we'd be right into it, right?
Them mid-80s, light wind.
Light wind. It's not 106 or whatever the heck it wants to be.
Sun's just about to set.
Yeah.
And you could just feel something in the air. It's just like, it's time.
It's football. That's what it was. Yeah. I think that would definitely complete everything that we've got going on. We're going to get into a few NFL topics here real quick before we hit fantasy in hour number 2. So I got a question for both of you guys. You can't, Jason, since you're not here, you can't look it up on the internet. You got to try to answer this honestly.
I mean, I can do it. I can search it even if I were in studio.
Well, I know, but I can actually watch Levi and tell him no. But I can only tell you, and like if Levi tries to, I can reach over and smack him or whatever. But
hey, no, there's enough distance.
There is.
No need for violence.
Yeah, I would have to get off the mic and like swing or something.
I can duck.
Oh, man, don't get me started over there. So the question is, I thought this was funny. Okay. Can you guess who the only Browns quarterback with a winning record since they returned to Cleveland in 1999 is? They returned in 1999. Who would be the only quarterback since then with a winning record? The Cleveland Browns. Yeah, I know the list is insane of quarterbacks that have been there.
It's nobody current because I'm trying to think to...
I'm going to guess Brian Hoyer.
Did you look it up? Levi?
No, am I right?
I mean, Jason, yes, you're right, but did you look that up?
I swear on all that's good in the world.
It was Brian Hoyer.
No, because I'm like... I was like, I remember him having some success, but like he's the only one that I remember them, being high on because he actually won some games.
He was 10-6. Yeah, he was a 10-game winner though for the Cleveland Browns. And
have they had a quarterback reach 20 wins since they've moved? Even if they have a losing record?
That's a good question.
I would guess not.
Probably not. Probably not.
If you give Baker next year, that's probably
the closest. give him next year.
Yeah, but I mean, he can win 20 next year. I mean,
yeah, but think, yeah. Brian Hoyer. So I was gonna say too, my hymn was gonna be that he's still in the league. Mm-hmm. And
Brian Hoyer's still in the league?
Yeah, he's the Pats fighting for a second spot right now.
Yep, he's on the Patriots.
Yeah,
wow,
which is crazy because Jason, go ahead.
Didn't he go to the Texans after there? Okay, that's what I thought.
He wasn't. Was he on the Raiders too? Or am I thinking of...
He's been in several
I thought he was with the Raiders like a year ago as well.
Here's his full career history. Started with the Pats, year with the Steelers, year with the Cardinals, 2 years with the Browns, Texans, Bears, 49ers, back to the Pats, to the Colts, back to the Pats.
Oh, my God. I mean, you count there. The Pats obviously 3 times now?
So that'd be 8.
Oh, my God.
I think Josh McCown's going to beat.
Wow. And that's literally just in 11 years. He started in the league in 2009.
So what's crazy about it is the other day Cam Newton comes out and he's like, he was really honest with the media. They asked him about, hey, how comfortable are you right now? How are you feeling with the offense? And he said, I'm not going to lie, I'm still learning crash course and I'm not quite where someone like Brian Hoyer is. And I was like, wait a minute. What'd you just say? Oh, yeah, Brian Hoyer, still with the Patriots. And he goes, I'm learning things still from Brian Hoyer. Like, he's going up to the line. He's making quicker reads. He's telling me things. And he tried to leave it somewhat open that the job was still available, even though we all know it's not.
We do have to keep this reality. Brian Hoyer does have a Super Bowl championship ring, and Cam Newton doesn't.
Yeah, no, and that's what I think he was kind of alluding to, was that he's been around enough, and yeah, Cam's had success. He's been to the Super Bowl, but you talk about a journeyman in the NFL, that's the definition of Brian Hoyer, but we don't think of him like as an elite guy, right?
That's true. We think of him as a backup or like an all-time backup guy, almost like your Ryan Fitzpatrick or your Josh McCown. But with what the answers that I've heard of Cam Newton recently, those don't feel like Cam Newton answers. That's
what I thought too.
Those feel like some Bill Belichick type answers.
It's because it's vague. It's like you always get a Bill Belichick answer and you go, wait, really? And it turns out to really not be what he said.
Yeah. That's one of those things where Bill's on the side saying, hey, Cam,
keep it interesting.
Do me a favor. Take the Patriots way with all these questions. We'll get you your starting job. Get ready for the season.
Because wouldn't Cam Newton, I would expect him to be like, it's my job, and I'm the starter, and I'm going to run through everybody. And that, like, he probably will get to that point at some point when he does get the job here in the season.
Oh, yeah.
But, yeah, right now you're right. That is a bit of the hoodie going through him there.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I looked it up. This I actually did look up. There is one quarterback for the Browns since they restarted in Cleveland in '99 who has gotten to 20 wins. And that was their first draft pick in '99, Tim Couch. He finished with a record of 22-37 for them.
Well, at least he got past the 20 mark. That's all that matters.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy. When I saw that stat, I was like, wow. Old Brian Hoyer, out of all people, fantastic. More news out of the NFL today. Actually, yesterday, Kalen Ballage to the New York Jets from the Miami Dolphins. He is now a Jets running back. The Jets' backfield has to be avoided at all costs this year, right?
Oh, yes, because Ryan Fitzpatrick had the most rushing yards last year for the Miami Dolphins.
Oh. Wow.
Yeah, I'm the only person I'm scared of is Le'Veon Bell having a tantrum. That's the only thing I'm scared of when it comes to the New York
He already
Jets.
did. We didn't even talk about that, but the other day, right, they got on the Zoom conference. And Adam Gase was talking about, well, this, that, whatever. And Le'Veon comes on. He's like, afterwards, tweets about it. Hey, why was I on the sideline the whole second half of practice, by the way? And Adam Gase is like, dude, I was resting you. Like, I don't want you hurt. And he goes, no, I don't know about that. I don't think I was getting enough touches. And we're not even at the start of the season yet.
Well, here's the thing. With Le'Veon Bell and the New York Jets, it's Le'Veon and nobody else. Jamal Adams was there like Le'Veon was tweeting about. He got left on an island.
You're right.
It's Le'Veon, an offensive line that is still developing. It's going to take a couple of years to develop. Le'Veon's in his prime now. He needs great pieces now. He needs to be on a winning team now. Now is not a good time.
He needs a real coach now.
He's on the wrong team.
Oh yeah.
Like you're not going. We all know the success doesn't follow New York.
What Adam Gase did was he got the running back that they picked up, and he's like, "Nah, I need Kalen Ballage back. Thank you, Miami, for holding on to him. I'll take him now."
Yeah, you know, right? If you're Le'Veon, like Frank Gore's on that team too. You're like, wait a second. Adam Gase got his guy back. Frank Gore will not go away. He always steals a certain amount of carries per game from guys that he shouldn't be doing. And it's like, if I'm Le'Veon, I'm like, what? Why? What is going on? I'm not feeling too great if I'm him.
I still need to know where the fountain of youth is, and I think Frank Gore might have stole it. Oh my gosh, man. He's been in the league, like Grandpa Gore is what I call him. Like, he's been around for so long, but you get those three guys in the same backfield. I mean, Jason, we've talked about backfields to avoid in fantasy football. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I like at one point Le'Veon Bell was the fantasy football god. Crazy how things change.
Yo, it's crazy when you think, well, I can sit out and get the money that I deserve.
That too. Yeah, and you know the Steelers. I mean, James Conner, he's a great running back. I mean, I think they were surprised a little bit by the amount of success he had early on. Now injuries and he kind of plateaued a little bit last year, but I think they're fine with the trade-off. With Big Ben back, they got rid of the two most, very talented, but most toxic players off their team, right? That's going to lead to possible success.
At this point, are the Jets just going to have a three-man set behind Sam Darnold and not have any wide receivers since they let all of them depart in the offseason?
Might as well.
That's what it feels like Adam Gase is trying to go back to 1940s football of we're not going to throw the ball. We're going to have 20 running backs that will go through. If one wears down, we'll throw in another one. And it's Levi, Hopper as well. Hopper had the misery being a Dolphins fan of watching Adam Gase there, and I do not get how the Jets signed that man as head coach. As much as people want to say that the defensive back that got traded to the Seahawks was toxic. No, he was accurate. Adam Gase is not a leader of an NFL franchise.
Oh, he's 100% not a leader. And I think it's just because, at least at the moment, it's a New York market. New York market's in the moment for a good chunk of sports, at least when it comes to the NBA and the NFL. Success right now, at least for the past couple years, has not been top priority.
The Yankees have been the only glimmer of hope for a while.
Yankees have been great, but whenever you look at the NBA, you look at the Knicks, Nets, you look at the NFL with the Giants, Jets, it's been terrible.
And it's not just their bad teams. It's the worst of the worst in every way imaginable per team. They just make decisions that are bad. The talent isn't good, right?
Yeah, and at least for both leagues, you have at least at least one team out of each league that's looking to build themselves up a little bit. The Giants, give them a couple more years, they'll be back. Give the Nets, maybe next year when you get Kyrie and KD back, maybe you'll be looking at a good squad. But the Knicks and the Jets are those two teams where you just look at them and you're just sitting here, why are you the way that you are? Why is your management so bad? Why do you keep on hiring bad coaches? And that just goes on for years and years of bad choices.
Classic Michael Scott statement, right?
Oh, yeah.
Why are you the way that you are? Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I think about with New York, too. It's a dumpster fire everywhere. That's definitely on the top of my list. I can go down. You don't know a few backfields to avoid. It just got worse for the Jets. We saw what happened to him last year, and that was with him with not a ton of competition behind him. Now, part of that was the coaching too, but he didn't look very good in a lot of ways. But to what Jason said, yeah, maybe it's better if you just go ahead and switch him over to wide receiver. We know he can catch the ball. Let him run in the slot. Let old man Frank Gore and Kalen Ballage do your backfield and see what happens, right?
Yeah, put him right next to Rashad Perriman.
I still feel it's not as bad as the quarterback situation with the Raiders. Because did you hear they brought in 2 more quarterbacks to try out today?
What I don't,
and they had 1 or 2 last week as well. They brought in for tryouts.
Well, and then you get the word from Gruden. He's like, hey, you know what? Marcus Mariota looked really good. I mean, he looked really, really good. They are over Derek Carr. I think they are over Derek Carr.
Oh, we knew that.
Yeah, so maybe they're trying out guys to be the backup because they're wanting to try to trade away Carr. Ultimately, if you can bring in someone you think that's going to be a quality backup, you can maybe get, because that's the thing is I think if you're smart, if you're Mayock and you're Gruden, you trade Carr before you ultimately say, you know what, Mariota's our guy and whatnot, because right now Carr is viewed as a starting quarterback by NFL franchises.
And if you look down the numbers of his career, it's not terrible, but there's been a lot of times in situations where he needs to complete a throw or big-time situations to win a game that he cannot get it done, right?
Yeah. There's been several moments when you just look at Derek Carr and you're just sitting here you could be really good.
Yeah.
But it's either things haven't worked out for him, wrong timing, or it's just the way his skill set is built, it just isn't going to work. And, yeah, they brought in Kyle Lauletta and Kyle Shermer, 2 Kyles, so that's pretty interesting. But there's a lot of places that would want a guy like Derek Carr. I'm wondering if the Bears would ever jump in that, and then you can have Derek reunite with Khalil Mack.
Well, I was going to say, speaking of random quarterbacks that somehow have Super Bowl championship rings, his brother David Carr.
Yeah, yeah, that's good stuff. Wasn't David Carr? Didn't he say something about he was something really mad about the Raiders not too long ago or something? I don't know. It was on Hard Knocks, and he was like, "The Raiders don't treat Derek Carr right." Dude, come on, let's go. Raiders are a dumpster fire. Luckily for the Chiefs, that's a good thing. Mm-hmm. When we come back, we're going to get into our Fantasy Friday talk and break down. Position-wise, our top 5 players to go after in the drafts some of them already happened, some of them are still coming up here very quickly. Give you all the advice you need to get into your weekend. That's next.
Feel like I'm gonna puke, cause my taxes are due. Do my password begin with a 1 or a 2? Been a hell of a ride, but I'm thinking it's time to grow.
Metronome.
Man, I'm up to something. Ooh-dee-la-dee-do, thank you all for coming. I hope you like the show, cause it's on a budget. So ooh-dee-la-dee-do, yeah, come on, here we go, yeah, come on.
Here we go.
So put your best face on, everybody pretend you know this song. Everybody come hang, let's go out with a bang. I'm way too young to lie here forever.
Hour number 2 of the Afternoon Sports Drive, Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Patrick Wheeler, Levi Peckinpah, Jason Elmquist, rocking out here on a Friday. We're going to get into our Fantasy Friday, one of the most, not just fun, but entertaining topics that we always like to get into.
Yes, sir.
I thought it'd be cool to talk about, we've already gone through position rankings and things like that. We talked some last week, but let's go into who we would take. Let people know your top 5 in every position here that you got to go after. We may even go a little past that if we see a few that we like. But this is going to go virtually for any type of league, whatever you play in. These guys are the ones you want. Any consensus on where we should start? Should we just go straight with quarterbacks, right? We got to lead it off with them.
Got to start with the leaders.
But I feel, though, that traditionally it's a running back that goes number 1 overall. So I feel like we almost need to start with running backs.
We could. If there you
Jason
go.
has a point.
I mean, yeah. Right. And I'll say this right off the bat. I think the last 2 to 3 years I've drafted, I haven't taken running back until like the 3rd round typically. Mm-hmm. But traditionally, it's a consensus of going with the top running backs to open up the drafts.
Your zero back strategists are like, oh, come on, guys, what are you talking about?
Yeah. I'm with Jason on this.
Okay.
I'm one of those guys who I'm picking my wide receivers first because usually the top ones, even though of course running backs go first, top ones don't last that far after. So I always pick up either a Julio or a Nuke Hopkins, or try my luck at something.
And here's my other thinking too with why I go wide receiver. And again, we're talking strategy, so this is good as well, I think, for some people. My thinking is most leagues are set up 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, so you need 1 more wide receiver instantly. And then if you have 1 or 2 flex positions, you're typically going to get more value from wide receivers than if you're going with an RB3, RB4 in those flex positions. So for me, I've been, unless somebody that I just have to have at running back falls to me, I'm looking wide receivers pretty early quite often.
Yeah, I've been down that path before too. The reason I'm different is because last year and probably this year, especially if you're going PPR, it can be other leagues too, though, running backs that have become so accustomed to part of the passing game as well can be your ultimate scorers when it comes down to it.
But I will just throw this out there. I won my office league last year with the top running back that I had by the end of the year was Mark Ingram in the 9th round, and I still won that league. Largely because I had wide receivers that I could eventually trade off.
And in fairness,
for a decent running back.
In fairness, too, he kind of surprised, I think, a lot of people with the amount of production he was able to get forward. Because there was many people that were like, is he going to have a running back workhorse type job? Yeah, he was carrying the load.
Oh yeah, I literally remember this time last year sitting here with Jordan King talking about that position because we were talking about the possibility of Justice Hill, what his opportunity would be in Baltimore, and I was like, Mark Ingram, he's always going to get injured. It's a given. He's going to eventually wear down, and then I take him in my draft, and I'm like, I'm glad he never wore down. I was wrong.
Yeah, no, I think he proved a lot of people wrong last year because especially when you look at the quarterback, they're like, he's not going to get a ton of options in the run game anyways. Well, he got it done.
Especially when you also look at Baltimore, they have so much depth at the running back position.
That too.
It's insane.
Yeah.
And just to see him be able to take all those carries, I'm just impressed. You got to give him the standing ovation, the golf clap, but now we got a new season.
All right, so is it a consensus number 1 who the top running back is?
Yeah, I'm assuming it probably is, unless Levi's over there smiling because he's got somebody different. He doesn't.
Well, I'm just hoping we're all on the same page as Christian McCaffrey.
Okay, we're good, right then, Jason?
Wait, I thought I thought you were going to go with Zeke.
Because I'm a Cowboys
That's
fan.
laughable.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I got Christian McCaffrey as my number 1 running back as well.
You know what is interesting about Zeke? They said today that they talked about Tony Pollard, and they said, kind of asked him on a radio show, hey, I'm sure you saw this, but would you be okay with kind of splitting some carries, losing some carries? And he said, that's what the team needs me for. That's fine with me. And I think some people heard, they were like, uh-oh.
All right, let me slide him down my rankings.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, move old Zeke down.
Move him down one spot.
Yeah, for real. Okay, we all got Christian in number 1, Christian McCaffrey. It's interesting because we've talked about his production last year was obviously through the roof. Like, it was insane. He was the offense. I don't know, and I've said this multiple times this year coming into it. Like, the dude, like, his pass catching, okay? No running back is supposed to have over 115 catches in a season.
No.
When that happens, I'm not sure if we can expect the same level. Now, I know they just paid him, but they've got to be looking long-term here as well. Like, we want to dial back a little bit. You also think about it, they didn't have a ton of depth at the running back position last year anyways. Teddy Bridgewater, with him, they're going to rely on him a lot, but I'm not. When you grab Christian at number 1, that's great. I'm all for it, but I don't know about you guys, but it's not. Don't expect him to single-handedly win your league like he did last year.
And I would make sure to look, for all these people who don't know, I would make sure to look at Matt Rule's play style and figure out if you think that's the best choice for you as the number 1 guy, because I assume he's going to be number 1 on the majority of people's boards.
Well, and
make sure it
obviously
fits.
We obviously need to keep in mind new quarterback as well. You have Teddy Bridgewater, the expected quarterback there. So I went back just now to look, and obviously he played significant minutes for the Saints last year. And Alvin Kamara, who is a dual threat type of running back, did have 81 catches last year. So obviously when Teddy Bridgewater was playing, he was utilizing his running back out of the backfield like you would expect with a Christian McCaffrey. So that may bode well for McCaffrey as well.
Yeah, no, the upside is still there to be insane fantasy player. I mean, right? It's like
the upside so outweighs the negative. If you don't take Christian McCaffrey number 1, we all have a problem with you.
But I would also say, to go with my number 2 on this rankings, don't be surprised if something weird happens, because remember last year a lot of people were going with Saquon Barkley number 1 because he was coming off of a big year. Obviously injuries kind of derailed a little bit, but sometimes, I'd be interested to go back over the past 10-15 years of how many times that people went with whoever the best running back was the year before as the number 1 overall, and that person actually ended up being the number 1 running back in that same following year.
Yeah, no, it changes all the time, right? Year by year basis. Okay, so your number, did you say Saquon's your number 2?
Yeah, okay. I've got Saquon on number 2. I know some people may be, maybe turned off, obviously, but last year, the thing that when I looked at the stats, again, he missed 3 games with injury, and obviously he also played some games while having that lingering injury as well. He still finished 10th in fantasy points among running backs, despite missing 3 games and probably another 5 or 6 where he wasn't at 100%. So I've got to look at that. I've got to weigh that and say if he's 100% healthy, those numbers probably go up.
Okay, that's fair. Levi, who you got at number 2?
Number 2, I also have Saquon Barkley. The man is electric, quads as big as our heads. That's true. The man is electric on the field and by far the best player on that New York Giants squad. And with the offensive line, they're getting
outside of Daniel Jones.
Okay, Tom.
Yeah, you do.
Calm down with that take. But with that offensive line continuously getting better, they added Andrew Thomas. I love that pickup. But as that line gets better, that just leaves more and more open space for Saquon to continue to move and just destroy people's defenses. And with Daniel Jones, he will get better over time. He'll be used more in the passing game. I think Saquon is safe for number 2 pick as well. It's just a good choice.
Okay. You guys both have Saquon at number 2. I do not. I am not bought into Saquon. I love, great running back, love him. But my number 2 goes to Derrick Henry. I love Derrick Henry. Let me tell you why.
King Henry.
Let me tell you why I love King Henry at number 2. I'm firmly of the belief that they're going to get him more involved in the passing game. Why? because we saw what happened last year. Now, I know the speed isn't electric. It's good for his size. But we saw what happened because it was always a Dion Lewis situation, right? They were like, we got to bring him in on passing downs. He's the only one that can get things done. But when Ryan Tannehill did get him the ball on a screen or what have you, a little dump off, those were some of his best plays down the stretch, getting a little bit of space, but also the fact that he just runs through people as a receiver. You're going to get a lot more out of him, I think, in that area as well. Think about it last year. Over 300 carries, which is that's elite level. Over 5 yards a carry. I mean, that dude, he was now. I know Jason's gonna say, "Wow, that was a lot of it was in the second half." Yeah. But he just got his money. Ryan Tannehill is back. I think they're ready to go, and he's going to be the focal point of that offense on a ton of downs. He's going to get a lot of touches. He is your definition of a workhorse, and I love him at number 2.
And here's going to be my hot take, because you just mentioned he got his money, so he doesn't need to necessarily worry about those numbers right now, stats, numbers, whatnot. And then the fact, because they are going to use him as a workhorse, that also brings a risk of him possibly breaking down. So my hot take right now, I do not have him in my top 5. If I could get him as an RB2, I would definitely take him. I don't think he would.
Ooh.
But I am worried about the constant use of him possibly breaking him down, because again, we saw it with Saquon Barkley last year. They relied so heavily on him, and eventually he broke down. So that would be my fear with Derrick Henry. And again, I don't, and again, maybe having Ryan Tannehill helps, but eventually if Ryan Tannehill goes back to Miami Dolphins Ryan Tannehill, teams are just going to load up the box, and they're going to do that to begin with. And if Ryan Tannehill is never able to open up the passing game, which he has the weapons to do so, then obviously there's no need to get out of the box. It makes it more difficult for Derrick Henry. So I'm worried about defenses loading up and making Ryan Tannehill be the guy who gets all the numbers to defeat them.
With Derrick Henry last year too, what you said, think about it. They rode him like crazy, and he only got better the longer the season went on. Now, how much?
Right, but he also had fresh legs late in the season because they for whatever reason didn't use him as a battering ram the first half.
Also, think about it. Last year was Derrick Henry's true, really good year. He's been okay for the past couple years, but last year was his true breakout year, and he did it in perfect timing because he was able to get his money, and it's well deserved. Last year, one of the best backs in the league. You got to wonder if he can keep up that consistency. That's one thing that I will say is a big worry, because sometimes Derrick Henry, he can turn into the battering ram and you're getting points for days. There's also sometimes where if he turns into the Derrick Henry of the past years, there's sometimes where he doesn't show up.
You take there's definitely a little bit of risk, but the reward is so good, because think about it with this Titans team. Like, I think what they did last year, I'm not thinking that's just a fluke. They're coming back. I love Mike Vrabel. I think they have the wide receiver talent is really good. I wish they would have grabbed onto Jadeveon Clowney. They still possibly could to kind of shore up that defense. But they're a really good team. And when you talk about really good teams, think about the guy that usually controls all of it. I'm not saying it's necessarily Ryan Tannehill this year. I think your offense goes through Derrick Henry, plain and simple.
I'm just hoping that whoever they got to replace Jack Conklin can do as good of a job as Jack Conklin could, because he was so good for them.
All right, Jason, who's at number 3?
Well, and I was just going to chime in as well. We have to keep in mind, looking at the division as well, if you're going up against the Texans twice, you're going to be in some shootouts there, so that may take some looks away from him. The Colts maybe look better with a aged but slightly still better going to be than Jacoby Brissett with Phillip Rivers with the Colts. Those may be shootouts. So there's 4 games that they may not be able to just drive it home as much as you would anticipate, because they may be having to play catch up with some offenses that have the threat of going deep a little bit more.
It's possible. I think honestly, to me, that's Tennessee's division to lose. I think that because we talked about
you have them ahead of the Texans.
I do, because look what happened last year. Like the coaching and the ownership is an absolute disaster. Go ahead.
My key for all this will be, is J.J. Watt healthy? If he's healthy,
but that's the whole thing, is the team's health. When you talk about, you got rid of Nuke, so you've got Deshaun Watson. You hope he's good to go, and he surely will be. But think about it too. When your next best receiver can't ever stay healthy, I mean, Will Fuller's always out. I'm losing the guy's name from the Rams that came over now for some reason.
Is it
Brandon Cooks?
Brandon Cooks,
right.
yeah.
Yep.
Brandon Cooks.
Concussion issues.
Yeah, has concussion issues. J.J. Watt can't stay healthy. You've got an aged back in David Johnson. I don't see a ton of success coming out of the Texans, and I think it's the Titans' division to lose.
I just see pain in Deshaun Watson's future. That's all I see.
We saw his face when the reaction when he lost Nuke, right? And it was
Yeah.
like, what in the world is going on right now? All right, Jason, give us number 3.
It pains me to go here, but I wouldn't be surprised if he fell out of the top 5. I'm going to go with Zeke right now at 3. I think it could hurt him because of the weapons they do have on that offense that may take some numbers, especially now that you hear that he's willing to split carries with a mediocre backup. But the potential is what I'm going with there. You know, you talked about ceiling with Henry. To me, Zeke's one of those guys where if he would focus solely on I'm going to be the best running back in the NFL, he could be the best running back in the NFL.
Okay. Do you have him there too?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so you both have him there. I'll let you talk about him in a second. I worry about Zeke a little bit with this wide receiver depth that they have. Like you and Dak Prescott, he can move on the ground. So part of that also has to do with what I think he said today with Tony Pollard. Like, is he expecting to be out there on the field that much as he was in the past? Think about the new head coach. Was all bought in on Aaron Rodgers all the time, right? It's quarterback. Green Bay was known not to run the ball for a while when McCarthy was there. I think there's a little bit of worry in that too. So I see his production going down a little bit this year. That's why I don't have him at number 3. I'll tell you that now, but you do. So tell us why.
I'll tell you one thing. Even though I have my own frustrations with Ezekiel Elliott, and sometimes where he doesn't show up, he still puts up really great numbers. This is another year for 1,000 yards, 12 touchdowns. I mean, it was 1,300 just over, and so he was able to do a lot. I mean, he was able to also get a lot of receptions. He got 54 receptions with 420 yards and 2 touchdowns. So he can be played in whatever position. I mean, with the Dallas Cowboys, at least with the pass systems, it's super running back heavy. He is the star guy. We still play like this is the 90s. How many carries can he get? And I don't know if that system might change now that you have Mike McCarthy there. I'm very interested to see what his system is now with the collection that he has over there in Dallas. But I still think Zeke is going to get so many carries. It's going to be wild.
Yeah. Okay. It's possible. I think there's bust potential there, and that's why I'm not going to put him quite that high. I'll go at number 3, and I think this is someone who's still getting a little slept on. I love Josh Jacobs. I say that, and I know he's on a really bad team, but he is the guy now at running back. Jalen Richard is gone. There's no one. He proved last year that he can make plays catching the ball. He's a true 4-down back, young, healthy. He's got a lot left in him and a lot to prove still coming off of last year, which was also very good. So I love him in the 3 position. Why as well? Because think of straight production. And we talked about the quarterback issues. Where are they going to go? Which that's why he benefited so well last year, was Derek Carr couldn't get his reads and would just dump it off to him all the time. He pulled his classic Alex Smith last year and couldn't stop dumping it off to Josh Jacobs. If that's going to be the case with him again, then that's why you pick him. Also, think about it this way. If it's Mariota that's the guy, well, it's a guy that hasn't played in quite a while. He's on a brand new team. Where do you think he's going to go? Somewhere where he knows is safe. That's to his running back. Not to mention all the carries he's going to get. The Raiders love him, and I love him in the top 3 right there.
Yeah, I definitely think he's a guy who could definitely make the jump into being a top 5 running back. Again, I just there's so many question marks around Oakland of what they're going to do each and every year, and obviously there's a question mark of what they're going to do at the quarterback position. And again, that may lead to them relying heavily on Jacobs while they're trying to figure that out.
Yeah, I'm counting on it.
That's one of those backfields because of. You know, if this was John Gruden's backfield from the early 2000s, I'm saying, yeah, I jump on it. But I don't know what he's going to do day to day, game to game with the offensive game scheme. So I'm hesitant on him, but I definitely think the upside is up there.
Okay, let's real quickly do number 4 on the list real quick. Jason, you start.
I'm going to stay in the same division. I'm going to go with Austin Eckler as my number 4. I think because, we talked about quarterback play, uncertainty there now. So obviously he's proven that he can put up numbers even with a declining quarterback there behind in front of him. Obviously you don't have Melvin Gordon to split carries with anymore as well. He is one of, the last 2 years he's been one of the, outside of Christian McCaffrey. If there wasn't a Christian McCaffrey, we'd all be talking about Austin Eckler being the most versatile catching running back possibly in the NFL. So I would put him at 4.
Okay, that's fair.
I need some people to start putting some respect on my man Nick Chubb. That's what I need. I got my man Nick Chubb at number 4.
Okay.
Dude is amazing.
I'm just worried about Kareem Hunt. That's all I gotta say.
I am too. I really am.
I'm worried about that.
I don't know how they're going to use him.
Yeah, I don't know either, but I'm not worried about a guy who almost had 1,500 rushing yards. I'm not worried about someone trying to take some snaps from him. I think he's going to have really great production. Yes, Kareem Hunt will be back there trying to get some, but when you have a stellar year like that, I think there's the only place you can go is take another good step and still have really great numbers. Kareem Hunt most likely will take a couple snaps away, but I just think Nick Chubb will have some really good numbers. I don't know if close to this past year, but I think this year he's going to be solid.
Okay, I think that's fair. That he'll definitely be taken in that area.
I also think you have to worry about them possibly trying to expand the passing game a little bit more. Yeah, especially when you bring in a talent like Austin Hooper at tight end to complement with Odell Beckham, Jarvis Landry. That's the thing, and obviously we know they're looking at Kareem Hunt as more of the receiving running back as well. So that's again, I had Nick Chubb. I traded for him to lead me to the championship, but that's one of those where that you have a great talent, but you just have so much uncertainty again with a new offensive coordinator as well.
I'll give you my number 4 real quick. Alvin Kamara. Last year, I know there wasn't the same Alvin Kamara that we saw. Latavius Murray, is he really a threat? I mean, he proved that he can still run the ball last year. But when Alvin, towards the end of the season, was getting more chances, which you know how Sean Payton is, wants to roll with this guy once he sees he's back hot, I think he has a lot to prove this year. You know, he's going to come back and say, I want to be a big part of this offense again. I want to be that guy that was the fantasy stud the last few years. He was your Christian McCaffrey the last few years. So I think he has a lot to prove here. I'm not really that threatened by Latavius Murray. I know like only 81 catches. I said only 81. That's like down for him a little bit, right? So he's going to have a lot more opportunity. You think about an aging Drew Brees. He's going to rely on him a ton. I love Alvin Kamara at number 4. I think he's still a solid pick.
Alvin Kamara is definitely a solid pick. If he stays healthy, he's definitely going to be getting a lot more takes.
And when you say that too, Latavius Murray is one of the best handcuffs you could probably have ready to go. Because if he doesn't stay healthy, Latavius is your guy that's going to fill in big time.
Latavius Murray is one of the best backups in the NFL, and he's great at his job.
Yeah. When we come back, we'll finish out our running back ranks and probably get into some quarterbacks before we get finished here on the Afternoon Sports Drive. That's next.
Levitating off the blacktop. Used to struggle getting started, now I can't stop. Used to be the quiet kid in the sandbox, now it's hands up every time.
Welcome back into the Afternoon Sports Drive, Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Patrick Wheeler, Jason Elmquist, Levi Peckinpah, rocking with the fantasy football talk here in hour number 2 on a Fantasy Friday. You know, what's exciting about this is we're getting really close to be giving guys, everyone that listens to this, advice for what they're about to do on Sunday, right? We're getting really close to that.
Yeah. Better yet, on Thursday.
Yeah, that's true.
Less than 2 weeks away from the opener.
When you got Texans and Chiefs players ready to go on your fantasy team, woo, we're gonna be loving on that one.
Oh yeah,
that'll be fun. Let's get into quarterbacks. I think that there's a kind of, for some people, there's not a wrong answer at number 1. Because of the top 2 that are in the league right now. But I'll go with quarterbacks, and I'm going to choose Patrick Mahomes, and not just because I'm a Chiefs fan, but last year, like, he was still, we know he was insanely successful. But with the games that he did miss, I think there's so much to it this year, coming off a Super Bowl, everything in the air of were they even going to have a season, and talk of all that. It's like, this is his time to, if he's really going, the contract, if he's going to turn into, let me get my Brady going here even more. It's another out-of-this-world season. The weapons we know are endless. The coaching is fantastic. I think he's your number one quarterback this year again.
I mean, what'd you think this was going to be? I mean, it's Patrick Mahomes. He's my number one as well. And
wow, I actually thought you might go Lamar.
No, I do think Lamar Jackson is phenomenal. The thing is, I think he's got room to grow. He's got a lot of room to grow, and he's going to continue to become better and better. But come on, the man's coming off winning the Super Bowl. I got to give it to Patrick Mahomes.
What I find funny is, if we remember during last year's offseason, everyone in Fantasyland was talking about, oh, Mahomes will come back to earth, blah, blah, blah. No one's saying that with Lamar. So you almost feel like it has to happen that he's not going to have as good of a year. He's still going to be one of the top two. So the reason I'm going with Patrick Mahomes, and it's not just because if I were to do a draft, I would consider even taking him in the first round. But if you go back to numbers last year, again, he finished 7th in fantasy stats for quarterbacks. He essentially missed 3 games because he missed the second half of that game in Denver that he got injured. So he essentially missed 3 games. Not to mention, he was out without Tyreek Hill for 6 games, without a wide receiver, his number one wide receiver, and he still averaged 25 points a game. And ultimately, if you would take his average and add it for those 3 games he missed, he still would have finished second in quarterback stats behind Lamar Jackson. So, again, the numbers, I think, go up drastically, especially, we talked about, guys making the next step. Obviously, you add a better talent at running back for him to throw to and utilize. But then Mecole Hardman. We got to keep in mind, Mecole Hardman is going to be a scary good number 2 wide receiver there now that he has because he talked about it in one of his more recent media availabilities that last offseason it was, he was spending all of a spring of, working on his 40 time, working on the shuttles and this, that, and the other. This offseason, he's gotten to work on mechanics, route running, reading defenses, all that stuff that's needed to be successful in the NFL. So look out for we look at Jameis Winston and how amazing numbers he had last year when he had 2 talented wide receivers and a good tight end. Imagine when you're the talent of Patrick Mahomes having 2 really good wide receivers and one of the best tight ends in all of NFL.
Yeah, no, he's primed to have another fantastic season fantasy-wise too. Lamar Jackson's my number 2. Think about it this way. Same with you, Levi. Okay, think about it this way. With the difference in Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson, Lamar threw the ball an average of 26 times per game last year. That's not like 20. He did all his damage on the ground. How long is that going to continue? It's up to say. When we know with running quarterbacks now, his running was insane. That's where all the points came from. But I think that's going to go up this year, and that's why he's still a solid number 2 to me. They want to bump that to a 30-plus attempts per game, but it's all going to depend on, can he stay consistent with that too? Is he willing to throw the ball that many times and not take off with it, right? So I think he's probably a solid number 2, but there's still room to grow, like you said.
Oh, yeah, the man's getting better as a thrower. Nobody should deny that. He is getting better. He's getting more accurate. He is getting a lot better than anybody probably thought he was going to be. Originally, again, at the end of the first round, Baltimore Ravens taking Lamar Jackson, everybody's like, really? Lamar Jackson? Yeah. They still kind of got Joe Flacco. I don't know how that's going to turn out. Oh, wait a second. They just got the MVP, and big trust has invaded the NFL. Now, Lamar Jackson is still going to be a beast. I don't know if he's going to have extreme numbers like this past year, but I think it's still going to be really good numbers. Yeah. Maybe close to what he had, maybe a little bit down. I don't know, but I think it's enough to take him number 2.
Yeah, I think what we're deciding here is Mahomes and Lamar Jackson are literally in a league of their own. You can't go wrong with either one of those two. Right now you should get major numbers, but I think there's definitely maybe not a massive drop off, but there is a drop off after those two.
All right,
I'll spin it right into my number 3.
Yeah,
I will say it's the best quarterback not to make the playoffs. Dak Prescott is my number 3.
Oh, come on, Jason.
Booyah, Jason.
And I went back and looked. I went back and looked at the stats last year. he was the second-ranked fantasy quarterback behind Lamar Jackson.
I know
so
what
I've
he
got to give him
was.
props. But here's the thing, and see, that's why I always make this comment. Dak Prescott is a great fantasy quarterback. Obviously, don't expect them to make the playoffs, though.
Is that going to hold true this year, Levi, again, with your Cowboys?
Don't hurt my feelings like that, Jason. But
again, okay, Levi, if you have a quarterback who's putting up numbers almost equivocal to the MVP of the league, how do you not make the playoffs?
Don't tell me he was coaching either, because I've heard everybody goes, Jason Garrett. Come on, he can only do so much.
Yeah, I was gonna say Jason Garrett can only do so much. I will say the play calling was atrocious.
Horrendous.
It was atrocious on some occasions, and then sometimes you just look at every end and you would think the cogs would all come together, but unfortunately it didn't. And Dak Prescott, he did all he could. I mean, almost 5,000 passing yards.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, he had a
goodness.
Yeah. How'd that pan out though in that game against Philadelphia late in the year though?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I know.
Amazing.
Question: why do you guys just kick me while I'm down? Why you do this?
Because we can. Because if suddenly they're really good this year, we got to actually have to have these good
conversations. We'll face the music too if it is, right?
Yeah, good. You better.
Who's your number 3, Levi?
Oh, my number 3 is it's not Dak.
Okay.
I'll just tell you it is. Well, it's Russell Wilson. It's the guy who usually, if Lamar Jackson didn't have his giant boost up, we're talking the guy who's right next to Patrick Mahomes. It would be Russell Wilson. The man is consistently great on all fronts. He's doing all this amazing stuff with a terrible offensive line. He's still dragging his teams to the playoffs. It's on his back doing great numbers, and it's incredible to see him do this, because whenever you put a lot of really great quarterbacks on terrible offensive lines, you're not making the playoffs. Russell Wilson is just, whenever we're talking those levels, there's a tiny tier that's right below Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes. Russell Wilson resides in that level.
Yeah, no, I think he's right there with me too. He's my number 3. He's incredible, and fantasy wise too. With the receivers he's got, I think DK Metcalf's a star. He's going to be an absolute star, and I think that he'll be a big part of Russell Wilson's success. The running backs, you get back Chris Carson. If he can stay healthy, it's going to be all good there.
And also love the speed of Tyler Lockett.
Oh, Tyler Lockett is a game changer on that, and that's when it plays into how Russell Wilson can fit a ball into anywhere. We know about the deep throw, but he reminds me a lot of Patrick Mahomes too, in the way that he can fit a ball in a tight space. The throw he made last year to Tyler Lockett in the back of the end zone was one of the best throws I've ever seen in my life. So he's definitely my number 3 too. I still think he's slept on a little bit by some people.
I've got him at number 4, and it's largely because the reason I have Dak ahead of him, not only did he have the numbers last year, but then the fact that, again, they've added the weapons there in Dallas to give him more options. That's why, because if you were to compare who has the better skill position players around him, running back or wide receivers, I would have to give it to Dak over Russell. So that's why, because the numbers were similar last year and they improved the skill positions around him, is why I have Dak just barely ahead of Russell.
Okay, so we got his number 4. Who's your number 4, Levi?
Who do you think is going to be?
Oh, Dak?
It's my boy Dak Prescott.
The interchange there, okay.
And now I get to stand on my cardboard soapbox.
Oh, here we go.
Well, hey, I get this. We
only got a couple minutes. Can you get this out of here?
I will get to this, but the performance of Dak Prescott has improved so much over these past couple years. And, of course, the numbers, again, almost 5,000 passing yards, quite a bit of touchdowns. They didn't have a lot of success. I will chalk a lot of that up. Of course, the play calling by Jason Garrett, Zeke showing up in the wrong times, and then the offensive line play was not the healthiest. And of course, now you also have the retirement of Travis Frederick. That's not good. But during all that time, Dak was able to grow and put up really, really great numbers. And of course, if Jameis Winston wasn't going crazy trying to go 30 for 30 with the touchdowns and interceptions, he would be leading the league in yards last year. So I think with all of this, and now this being a Dak Prescott contract year, he's going to go play insane and try to get him some money.
Okay, that's fair. I think there's a ton of upside with Dak Prescott. I agree with that. My number 4, I told you off the air, I love Kyler Murray. I think he had a good year last year, but think about this is one of those teams where there's too many weapons not to succeed. On top of it, he still runs the football. His running backs are fantastic. Kenyon Drake and Chase Edmonds are fantastic. He's got Nuke now to go to. I think Christian Kirk is primed for a really good year. Larry Fitz doesn't age, so too many targets for him not to succeed. Really young. If he can stay healthy, I think his decision-making's got to get a little bit better. But with Cliff Kingsbury at the helm, I see a huge year for Kyler Murray. I'm willing to take him at number 4 all day.
Here's my quarterback hot take. Kyler Murray is the dark horse for MVP. He is my 5.
You're not going to get me yelling. You're not going to get me disagreeing with that.
Yeah, because he is a guy where I think they allow him to utilize his feet a little bit more this year now that he has a better feel for the speed of the game, being able to pick up NFL defenses a little bit better and stuff like that. So I think they allow him to throw the ball more, run when he feels that he can. Again, like you mentioned, they've got I think they got an upgrade at running back by getting Kenyon Drake in there.
Yeah.
If I remember right, Kyler Murray's were best when Drake was on the team. And then again, you bring in someone like DeAndre Hopkins, and I've been preaching it to both of you last week. Christian Kirk's healthy. That's a wide receiver there that you've got to keep an eye on as well. That could be, because that tandem right there of Hopkins and Kirk could be like your Tampa Bay combo last year with the talent that Murray has. So I've got Kyler there as my number 5 as well.
Okay, Kyler Murray would be my honorable mention.
Okay.
I think Kyler Murray is phenomenal, but I think to get to the point, like Jason's saying, a potential MVP, I'd give that
Don't go with Josh Allen. Don't go with Josh Allen.
I'm not going to go with Josh Allen. No way. My number 5 is actually Carson Wentz.
Okay.
I believe he's extremely talented.
Okay.
And think about it. A couple years ago,
he'll be a really good quarterback for the first 3 games and then miss about the next half of the season.
If he stays healthy, you're onto something.
Think about it. When he's healthy, before the whole Super Bowl run with Nick Foles, he was the MVP. He was MVP, and he was extremely talented, and unfortunately, he's been getting scratches and bruises every single time he's hit the field. And I think with the organization, they're starting to realize we need to start putting this stuff together, because if not, we're going to waste Carson Wentz's potential. He has the potential to, again, if he gets it together, maybe another MVP. I don't know with his potential, because we've seen so many injuries over the past couple of years, but if he's healthy, he is one dangerous man in Philadelphia.
I think he's extremely underrated, but a lot of that has to do with health. But the numbers he puts up when he's healthy, think about it too. Jalen Reagor coming in, I think, is going to have a fantastic year. Yeah. You've got, and there are other wide receivers we know are going to need some help, but tight end wise too. He's got 2 of the best. Oh, yeah. It's going to be fun.
This is a high risk, high reward.
That's my worry of Wentz. Not only the health, but the lack of talent at the wide receiver position. That, again, I will have Wentz as a top 10 guy. I wouldn't mind having him if it came down to the 4th or 5th round and I stacked up at wide receiver. I wouldn't mind grabbing him then. But he is. There's just so many questions at that wide receiver position, because you go back to last year, his numbers weren't all that great with a pretty poor wide receiver core.
I'm going to give you my number 5 real quickly here, and you guys may, but here's the thing. I think this guy continues to be disrespected, and I'm tired of it, because he's been a fantasy stud for a long time. Give me Matthew Stafford at number 5. I love Matthew Stafford. He is still, I saw a video yesterday of a couple of passes he's making in training camp. His arm looks like the best it ever did. Kenny Golladay, I think, is the real deal. Mm-hmm. Danny Amendola came on last year, kind of resurged. So there's weapons there, but Matt Stafford, we all know the Lions are god-awful, but he's going to throw the ball 40 times a game, and that's going to result in big-time fantasy points again.
You had me worried.
Do you know where Matthew Stafford finished last year in the fantasy points?
Overall fantasy points, I don't. Where'd he finish?
Let's just put it this way: he finished behind Mitch Trubisky, Sam Darnold,
and the reason why, we all know. I mean, and he ended up with 2,500 yards. I mean, it wasn't so. Yeah. But I'm telling you, in the past, look at where he's been. I know last year was kind of your outlier, but overall, he reminds me kind of a Jameis Winston type guy. Like he's going to make bad decisions at times. He's on a bad team, but he is going to throw the ball so much it's going to result in tons of points this year if he stays healthy.
I've learned my lesson with the Lions. Unless it's Megatron, don't touch a skill position player there.
Well, my thing about it, for Stafford for at least going for one thing, since we got to get going, Stafford only played 8 games last season.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
If that had been a full season, I think we would be talking about another fantasy study year for him. So if he stays healthy, I love my boy Matt Stafford. I've loved him since college. I think we got to start putting some respect. You said you were scared. Who was I going to pick at 5?
Oh, for a second I thought, because Jason teased it, I thought you were going to go Josh Allen. I was going to have to laugh.
I'm not that dumb, guys. Come on, give me a break here, okay?
Hey, put some respect on the quarterback for Jordan Bishop, because remember,
I know,
he finished 6th among fantasy quarterbacks last year, ahead of Patrick Mahomes.
Hey, until he goes in that one-on-one matchup with Mahomes and throws deeper, I'm not gonna put him up there.
Well, and I'm just gonna throw out, he had 2 more rushing touchdowns than Lamar Jackson. That's what you're banking on with Josh Allen.
Yeah.
He can sometimes hit his targets, or it's going to be overthrown like 30 yards.
Yeah, at least. Yeah. I was going to do it for us here on the Afternoon Sports Drive. Had a lot of fun here again on a Friday. Follow Jason Elmquist on Twitter, JElmquistSW. That's at Levi Peckinpah over there. I'm at The Patty Wheels on Twitter. You can get us all on there. Tons of sports, all that good stuff. Appreciate you guys as always. Got to go do a football game. We're going to get ready for that. Perry Maroons coming up here in a couple of hours right here on this station, 105.1. Also, if you have the app, you can stream it wherever you may be. And that's going to do it for us. As always, thanks to Jason, Levi, appreciate it. We'll see you back here later on.
Yes, sir.
Everybody have a great rest of your Friday and a great weekend. We'll see you back here on
Good
Monday.
luck on the call.
Thanks. Yeah, appreciate it. Let's go Perry Maroons. See you later.
Yep.